Hey guys, it's Kate and I hope you're having a great day. I'm back with another watercolor and I broke out the Kuretake palette again, the Art Nouveau that I really enjoy using. And I'm going in with my plain number 2 pencil to make some sort of doodly flowers and put them into a little arrangement with some leaves and greenery. And it's just a nice little relaxing painting. So I hope you stick around for the process and just hang out while we do this painting together. And you can try it on your own if you want. I have a time lapse on here to speed it up a bit for time, but you can also see the whole process. And it's a pretty easy sketch to copy. I wanted to go a little bit darker with my pencil so that you could see it a little better on the screen. But first I am going in after lightly spraying the page. I mixed it up. I can't talk. I mixed up a little bit of a yellowish color to put on the background. So the background's a bit cloudy, and I just wanted to get a bit of a base for the rest of the painting to go on, and then I can start going in and painting my solid objects. So first I mixed up a nice green because I wanted to get the greenery and the leaves and everything out of the way first before the flowers. And so I'm just going in, starting at the top, filling in my leaves where I have them sketched out. And then what I'm also going to be doing is as I go to kind of vary the greenery a little bit, you'll see me in my little mixing cup there, which is actually a little sauce dish, which I love to use for mixing watercolors. Um, I will add, more yellow or a little more blue or different colors in my palette to try to vary my leaves a little bit. So it just adds a little bit more variety to the page, a little bit more interest and contrast and more color. So that is one thing that I'm doing with this painting. But besides that, I want a little color variation, but I'm not really doing much here with shading and all of that. It's a very flat type of painting that I'm doing, but I will add in some detail later on with another coat of paint. But another thing that I'm trying to do to increase contrast is also vary the size of my um, elements of the painting. So for the greenery specifically, I tried to alternate the leaf sizes and styles, and so you can see some sort of long, narrow leaves, some rounded ones, and then I wanted to put a few larger ones in there just to provide a little more size contrast. And so there's a little bit of variety in the painting. But now you can see there's at least 3, maybe 4 different colors of green. But because I'm mixing them all in the same little dish, they all kind of go together, which is nice. And really, I would say in this palette, all those colors really go together beautifully, and it's really a pleasure to paint with. I've been enjoying them because they're a little bit different than your traditional watercolor, and they can also be used as a gouache. So for that, it kind of gives you a little bit of freedom, and you can use gouache as watercolor too, but the Kuretake palette, you can make it transparent, or you can really kind of pack on the paint and make it an opaque coating as well. So it's really flexible for whatever you're going to be painting. So after I've got my leaves and everything done, I'm going in and doing my little flowers first. And I just think, just like the leaves, they add that nice bit of contrast with size. And so I'm sticking with the kind of family of pinks for this painting, although I am going a little bit more skewing peach for these flowers. Now, the flowers came out really well actually, but there was at one point in, I don't know, another minute or so where I'm trying to dip some darker color in the center, But it was at that weird drying time where it was not really wet anymore, but it wasn't dry. And so I got some of that cauliflowering effect, and I didn't really care for that with this one. So I ended up adding a second coat of paint afterward, and you'll see that coming up here. If it was less of a thick paint application, or if I had done it before it had too much of a chance to dry, it would have spread out a little bit more. But the way it went down in this, and here's me doing that for the first one. Now, I liked the idea of it, but it just didn't execute the way I wanted. So I end up adding a second coat, but that's actually one of the nice things about this paint is because you can kind of build your layers and opacity, you have a pretty good opportunity to fix things if they don't turn out exactly the way you want. And that's one of the things I really like about acrylic also, and gouache and all those types of opaque media. Watercolor is very challenging if you don't have the control of the water that you want. And so it is definitely a learning curve, and it's surprising how challenging even simple things can be sometimes, or I shouldn't even say that, but things that you think would be simple can be a challenge if, your timing is a little bit off. And so I liked the fix on it though, because like in that bottom flower, you can still see a little bit of that second color, but that sort of watermark that I didn't want there is gone with the second coat of paint. So now I can go in and work on my leaves while I'm waiting for my flowers to dry again. And I am adding just some lines and adding some texture to the leaves. One of the things that I keep learning about when I'm doing these watercolors is I need to work on my patience, because I do not wait long enough to let things dry before adding more color. And I just keep getting into my head like, oh, this will work just fine. And then it doesn't work because I wasn't patient, or I could have at least gotten my hairdryer out. So you'll see me when I'm trying to do these outlines, which mostly go okay. And then I just haven't waited long enough for that top left flower though. So I do have a little bit more bleed again because it's hard for me to learn lessons, I guess. But I did really like the final result of this painting, and I guess it'll be a lesson that I continue to try to learn. So I'm adding some darker color in those flower centers, and right here is where I'm going in with the purple, and then I accidentally touched that brown, or I can't remember the color, but it's sort of like a reddish brown. I touch it in the top left, and then it kind of bleeds out into my flower. But what can you do? It's watercolor. Sigh. So here I go. You're going to see it in just a second. Right there. There it goes. And that's how I wanted it to spread the first time. You just can't win sometimes. But you know what? It's a part of the process, and we will just embrace those imperfections. So one thing I like keeping handy is white gouache. And if you don't use gouache, but you do use watercolor, white gouache is a wonderful thing to have handy if you want to add some brightness back in your painting. And that's what I'm doing here. It's just nice to have a good tube. The Winsor & Newton I really like. You can see how great the coverage is on it, and it's just nice for those watercolors because it is so transparent. And if you're not working with masking fluid and all that stuff, the white is nice to have around. And so anyway, I took my tape off, and now I'm going back over with my fine liner because I wanted to add some of those sketchy details, but we'll go ahead and do the close-up now. And I hope you enjoyed this video and the process. and paint it along with me, minus my mistakes. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep creating.